And joining us now is Democratic Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi of Illinois. Thanks so much for being with us, Congressman. Your reaction to this ruling out of California, a judge saying that the National Guard being called in there was a violation of the law, especially as we're looking at President Trump threatening to surge resources similarly to address immigration in Chicago.
My reaction is that that judge is absolutely right. It's a violation of the Posse Comitatus Act for federal troops to be used for domestic law enforcement. The Trump administration actually argued that the reason for the ability to deploy those federal troops is to protect the ICE agents. And of course, the judge tossed out that particular argument, saying that's laughable. And, you know, that would essentially open up the militarization or federalization of all domestic law enforcement, which would defeat the purpose of the Posse Comitatus Act. Let's be very clear. The reason for the Trump administration's actions right now is to distract attention from its mismanagement of the economy, as well as the Epstein files. Today, we're having a big roundtable on Capitol Hill with the victims with regard to the Epstein sex trafficking ring, and Donald Trump wants to change the subject desperately.
I want to ask you about that meeting today and what's happening with the Epstein files in just a moment, but just staying on this new ruling and also just the threats of potentially deploying more federal resources to the streets of Chicago. Given this ruling, do you think the administration will follow it, will hold off on sending in that big surge of federal resources?
I don't know, but I think this is appropriate. This is an appropriate time to take preemptive legal action to basically cite that ruling in California and try to get a judge to declare any impending activity in Chicago declared as illegal and unconstitutional and try to enjoin that activity. It's vital that we do everything possible to, prevent these National Guard troops from coming into Chicago and basically provoking potentially a spiraling of violence, which would then be used by Trump to justify harsher measures.
We saw in L.A. the ICE crackdown was met with protests. Then protests were met with troops. But your governor, J.B. Pritzker, there in Illinois, argues the Trump playbook goes much farther. Watch.
He has other aims other than fighting crime. The other aims are that he'd like to stop the elections in 2026 or, frankly, take control of those elections. He'll just claim that there's some problem with an election, and then he's got troops on the ground that can take control if, in fact, he's allowed to do this.
Congressman, do you think that's a legitimate concern?
Unfortunately, I think the governor is correct in being concerned about these possibilities. We just haven't. We're going into dangerous waters, uncharted waters right now, where a president is potentially willing to do anything to distract attention from the very real problems plaguing his presidency. We have to stand up and speak out wherever we can and in whatever manner to prevent him. I should just say one thing, which is if this happens, if the troops are deployed, people have every right to speak out and express themselves, but they need to do so peacefully. Because remember, we can't fall for the bait. We can't somehow respond in a way which would give Trump further justification for harsher measures, which is exactly what I think he wants.
Moving on to what's happening there on the Hill today regarding the Epstein investigation. As you mentioned, you're on the House Oversight Committee, and you will be at this closed-door meeting with Epstein survivors today, if I'm understanding it correctly. What are members hoping to learn?
Well, Robert Garcia, our ranking member, has invited these survivors to come and share what they know about the sex trafficking ring with us, to explain what happened, and quite frankly, to tell us, give us their further insights with regard to the current situation and what's potentially in the Epstein files. We have asked for those Epstein files as a committee on a bipartisan basis. There's also a resolution that's going to be brought to the floor on a bipartisan basis, thanks to Mr. Massey and Mr. Khanna, to basically required the disclosure of the rest of the files. We received an initial tranche of files, but they were basically useless. Most of that information was already public. So this is a very important week, and I think that we're going to learn a lot more from these particular witnesses. The last thing I'll say is I've introduced a resolution basically saying that the president should not offer any form of clemency whatsoever to Ghislaine Maxwell, who's a hardened sex trafficker and a perjurer. And unfortunately, I'm concerned that he's dangling a pardon in return for potential testimony that she fabricates to extricate him from this controversy.
By the way, we just learned as we were discussing this segment here that Thomas Massie, the Republican who has joined this bipartisan discharge petition, plans to file it at 2 o'clock today. So we'll be watching for that official move. Meantime, Congressman Garcia, who's the ranking member on the Oversight Committee, has said that the Epstein estate will turn over that infamous book that reportedly contains an explicit 2003 birthday message from Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein. I wonder, will the American people get to see that book, potentially see that Trump note, which the president claims doesn't exist?
I hope so. Obviously, President Trump claims that he doesn't like to draw. He doesn't know how to draw. And we're going to soon find out whether that's true or not. But I think most importantly, we need to get the files. We need to come to an understanding of what is his involvement with this whole situation and whether there are others involved as well, because at the end of the day, there were more than 1,000 victims, largely underage girls who were abused by men. And unfortunately, some of those men still may be among us.
Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, thank you very much